Welcome to IQD Dinar News, your go-to source for the latest updates on currency exchange rates, revaluation news, and insights into the Iraqi dinar. Stay informed and ahead of the curve with our timely analysis and breaking developments. The news that a U.S. delegation has arrived in Baghdad to prepare for indirect negotiations with Iran reveals a complex and multifaceted diplomatic endeavor, underscoring the intricate dynamics of the Middle East. It indicates not just a step toward diplomacy but an acknowledgement of the persistent and evolving geopolitical challenges that both the United States and Iran face. Baghdad is emerging as a key player in the region's diplomacy, reflecting Iraq's ongoing transformation and its evolving role as a mediator in regional conflicts. The phrase indirect negotiations typically refers to negotiations where two parties do not directly communicate with each other but instead convey their positions through intermediaries or third parties. This choice of negotiation format may be influenced by a lack of trust, a desire to save face, or the complexity of the issues at hand. In this case, Iraq is playing the intermediary, signaling its efforts to broker peace and stability in the region, human rights concerns, and disagreements over regional policies. The 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal, was an attempt by the Obama administration and other world powers to curb Iran's nuclear activities in exchange for relief from economic sanctions. However, the U.S. withdrawal from the JCPOA in 2018 under the Trump administration and the subsequent reimposition of sanctions exacerbated tensions between the two countries. In the years that followed, the region saw several flashpoints, including attacks on oil tankers, drone strikes, and the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, which brought the US and Iran perilously close to open conflict. Now, with the arrival of a US delegation in Baghdad to discuss indirect negotiations, the possibility of diplomacy reopens, some of which are aligned with Tehran's strategic interests. Conversely, Iraq also maintains a crucial relationship with the United States, which played a significant role in overthrowing Saddam Hussein's regime in 2003 and has since been a major player in Iraq's reconstruction efforts. This dual allegiance allows Iraq to act as a neutral ground where both American and Iranian interests can be discussed, albeit indirectly. The strategy of using indirect negotiations may also reflect a broader diplomatic tactic aimed at reducing escalation risks while gauging the other side's willingness to compromise. By not having face-to-face meetings, both the US and Iran can avoid domestic political backlash that might arise from direct engagement. This tactic also allows the two sides to manage expectations and buy time to build trust, where it exerts influence in countries like Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen through proxy groups. By seeking to resolve these issues as part of a larger framework, the US aims to address the root causes of instability rather than treating the symptoms in isolation. This approach also signals a willingness to engage in deeper and more complex diplomacy, acknowledging that regional power dynamics cannot be disentangled from Iran's broader strategic objectives. Iran, however, has traditionally preferred to separate these issues, possibly to retain flexibility in its regional policies while making limited concessions where necessary. Tehran has often used its involvement in regional conflicts as a bargaining chip in negotiations, applying pressure on multiple fronts to strengthen its position. For example, in the context of its nuclear program, Iran may be willing to make specific commitments regarding uranium enrichment but would not want this to constrain its support for groups like Hezbollah or the Houthis, which serve as critical elements of its regional influence. By addressing each issue separately, Iran can attempt to extract concessions from the US while giving up as little as possible in return. The potential for indirect negotiations mediated by Iraq underscores the evolving nature of Middle Eastern diplomacy. The US strategy reflects a shift toward multilateral problem solving, perhaps acknowledging that unilateral actions or narrow agreements are insufficient to resolve the complexities of the region. The involvement of Iraqi intermediaries indicates a pragmatic recognition that local actors can play essential roles in shaping outcomes. Moreover, it reflects Iraq's growing confidence in asserting itself as a diplomatic player, capable of facilitating talks between regional powers and major international actors. If successful, this approach could pave the way for Baghdad to be recognized as a diplomatic hub in the Middle East, potentially influencing future peace processes and conflict resolutions. The broader implications of these negotiations extend beyond U.S.-Iran relations. The talks are likely to touch upon key issues that have shaped the Middle East for decades, including the future of Syria, the role of non-state actors, maritime security in the Persian Gulf, and the delicate balance of power between Sunni and Shia factions across the region. The outcome of these discussions could affect not only bilateral relations but also the stability of countries like Lebanon and Yemen, where Iranian influence and U.S. strategic interests are in direct conflict. Furthermore, the involvement of Iraqi mediators in facilitating these negotiations speaks to the emerging regional order, where countries like Iraq seek to assert their agency and influence amid the shifting power dynamics. For Iran, the prospect of negotiations with the United States carries significant risks and potential rewards. On the one hand, engaging in talks, albeit indirectly, may be viewed as a sign of weakness by hardliners within the country, who prefer a more confrontational stance toward the US. On the other hand, diplomatic engagement could provide much-needed relief from economic sanctions and open the door to international investments that might revitalize the Iranian economy. The ongoing economic hardship, exacerbated by US sanctions and a lack of foreign investment, has put pressure on the Iranian government to explore all avenues for economic recovery. Successful negotiations could also bolster the position of moderate elements within the country, potentially leading to a recalibration of Iran's foreign policy in favor of less confrontational tactics. The United States, under the Biden administration, has signaled a willingness to explore diplomatic solutions rather than relying solely on military or economic coercion. The arrival of a U.S. delegation in Baghdad suggests that Washington is committed to a negotiated solution, even if it means making difficult compromises. However, any agreement that emerges from these negotiations will face significant scrutiny from U.S. allies in the region, particularly Israel and Saudi Arabia, both of which view Iran as a major threat. Thus, any U.S. strategy must carefully balance the desire for diplomacy with the need to reassure allies that their security concerns will not be sidelined. Additionally, the choice of a single basket strategy indicates that the U.S. sees an opportunity to address multiple challenges at once. By resolving one issue in the broader spectrum of concerns with Iran, the United States might help to create positive momentum for progress in other areas. This approach could lead to a comprehensive agreement that lays out a framework for addressing nuclear activities, regional proxies, missile development, and other matters in a systematic and interconnected manner. However, it is a risky strategy, as failure to make progress in one area could jeopardize the entire negotiation process. The term single basket implies a holistic view of Middle Eastern geopolitics, recognizing that conflicts and diplomatic disputes cannot be isolated into separate compartments. In practical terms, this means that resolving Iran's nuclear activities will likely involve discussions on its influence in countries like Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, as well as its ballistic missile program, which has been a major concern for US and allied security interests. By seeking to tackle all these issues together, the US helps to create a broader framework for peace and stability in the region. In doing so, it also acknowledges the interdependencies of the various conflicts and the difficulty of resolving them in a piecemeal fashion. Thanks for tuning in to IQD Dinar News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For more updates on the Iraqi dinar and global currency trends, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.